Ever feel like you missed some like crucial sex ed class that everyone else aced?
Uh-huh.
Like there was a whole chapter missing from the textbook.
All right.
Yeah, we'll say we're ditching the awkward textbook altogether
Yeah.
and diving into This Is So Good, Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski
Yes.
for a refreshing take on desire, arousal, and what normal actually means when it comes to sex.
It's such a relief to have a resource that embraces the diversity of human sexuality,
Absolutely.
instead of trying to fit everyone into like a neat little box.
Yes. And one of the first things that really struck me was Nagoski's breakdown of how our bodies like even develop.
Uh-huh.
You know, how everyone starts from essentially the same blueprint.
Right. It's called homology.
Okay.
That first 6 weeks in the womb, we all have the same genital tissue. It's only later that things, start to differentiate,
Wow.
leading to the amazing spectrum of bodies we see out in the world.
It really puts things in perspective.
It does. We're all just working with variations on a theme here. But then you turn on the TV or scroll through social media, and it's easy to feel like there's this one ideal way a body should look.
And that's where the trouble starts.
Wow.
Because the media often presents such a narrow and unrealistic view of what is, considered attractive, especially when it comes to vaginas.
Right.
And this can lead to a lot of unnecessary insecurity and shame.
Oh, it's so true. Have you ever, compared yourself to those airbrushed images
Oh, my God.
and thought, wait a minute, mine doesn't look anything like that?
It's incredibly common.
Yeah.
But it's crucial to remember that there is no one right way for a vulva to look.
Right.
The variations are normal. They're natural. And just understanding that can be incredibly liberating for people.
It's like permission to finally celebrate your own unique body.
Exactly.
But beyond just the anatomy, Nagoski also dives into how our brains play a huge role in our sexual experiences. Huge.
Yeah.
I found that whole gas pedal and brakes analogy really, really helpful.
Oh, it's so good. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. It's a fantastic way to understand that interplay between arousal and inhibition. Think of the gas pedal as like your excitement, your desire, all those things that get you, revved up.
Okay.
And then there are the brakes, which are controlled by your brain's threat detection system.
Oh, interesting.
So it's always kind of, assessing, is this safe? Is this okay?
So even if we're with a partner we find attractive, like objectively attractive, if something feels off, our brains can kind of slam on the brakes.
Exactly.
Like if we're stressed about work or feeling like self-conscious about our bodies, the
Absolutely.
brains are like, nope.
And that's important to recognize.
Okay.
That low desire isn't always a sign of something being wrong in the relationship.
Really?
Sometimes it's just our brain doing its job,
Okay.
trying to protect us from perceived threats,
Right.
even if those threats are more about a looming deadline than actual danger. It's really about recognizing that our bodies are just really good at self-preservation,
Right.
even if it means putting romance on the back burner sometimes.
It's like our brain's saying, hold up, gotta sort this other stuff out first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes sorting it out might involve simple things like dimming the lights,
Oh, yeah.
putting on some music, or even just taking a few deep breaths to signal to your body it's safe to relax. It's okay.
Right. Set the mood.
Yes, exactly.
Get in the zone.
Create that context.
Yes.
Remember that tickling example that Nagoski uses?
Yes.
How sometimes it feels good and other times it's the last thing you want.
Oh, totally. Like if I'm stressed or distracted, don't even try to tickle me. I will jump out of my skin.
Exactly. It's the same sensation.
Right.
But the context completely changes how we experience it. And sex is no different.
Right.
Our mood, the environment, even our past experiences, it all colors how we respond in the moment.
It's like how, I don't know, a romantic dinner with someone you've just started dating, that might feel like exhilarating,
Yeah.
But having takeout over the sink with your long-term partner after a crazy day at work just hits different.
Totally. It just hits different. And it's about understanding that the same act can elicit totally different responses depending on a whole bunch of factors.
Wow.
And here's where it gets even more interesting. Nagoski talks about this study with rats.
Okay, now I'm curious. Rats and sex, what's the connection?
So researchers found that stimulating a specific part of a rat's brain in a neutral environment made them avoid that sensation.
Okay.
But when they put the rats in a more stimulating and pleasurable environment, so, think tasty treats, cozy nesting materials.
Right, rat paradise.
Exactly. Stimulating that same part of the brain actually became enjoyable for them.
Wow, so you're saying that even sensations that might seem unpleasant can actually become pleasurable in the right context.
Yes.
That's kind of mind-blowing.
It really is. It highlights the incredible plasticity of our brains and how powerfully our environment and mindset shapes our experiences, even on like a physical level.
Which makes me think about all the times we might, like, blame ourselves when things aren't clicking in the bedroom.
Yes.
Maybe it's not us, but the context we're bringing to the experience.
It's so important to remember that.
Right.
And Nagoski talks about how one of the biggest buzzkills for desire is stress.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
She even uses this funny but relatable example of, like, imagine a lion is chasing you.
Okay, yeah. Picturing that now, not exactly feeling the romance in that scenario.
Right. When we're stressed, our bodies go into that fight or flight mode,
Right.
and our nervous systems are basically screaming, danger! Not a good time for a cuddle puddle.
It's like our bodies are prioritizing survival over sex,
Exactly.
which makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint,
Of course.
but doesn't always make for this steamiest encounter.
Exactly. And it's not like we can just snap our fingers and make the stress disappear.
Right, if only.
Nagoski really emphasizes the importance of completing the stress cycle,
What does that mean?
which means finding healthy outlets to process those pent-up emotions.
Okay, so what are some ways that we can kind of hit the reset button on stress? I know for me, a good workout or a long walk in nature can work wonders.
Absolutely. Exercise, spending time in nature, meditation, even just having a good cry or venting to a friend.
Yeah.
Whatever helps you unwind and release those pent-up stress hormones can make a world of difference. It's about giving your body a chance to shift out of that kind of fight or flight mode and into a more relaxed and receptive state.
Because let's be real, like trying to have mind-blowing sex when you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders is probably not going to be that mind-blowing.
Exactly. It's like trying to enjoy a gourmet meal when you have a stomachache.
Ooh, yeah. Good analogy.
Attend to the discomfort first, then you can savor the experience fully.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's not just like everyday stress that can impact us, right? Nagoski also talks about how past trauma, especially sexual trauma, can have a really profound impact on how we experience intimacy.
Absolutely. Trauma can really deeply affect our nervous systems and how we respond to touch, intimacy, and even just feeling safe with another person.
Right.
And for survivors, those brakes we talked about earlier might be slammed on much harder, even in situations that, other people might find perfectly safe and enjoyable.
It's so important to acknowledge that and create space for those experiences.
Absolutely.
Now, kind of shifting gears a bit, I was really struck by Nagoski's insights on how pop culture shapes our understanding of sex.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it feels like we're constantly bombarded with these unrealistic portrayals of bodies
Right.
and what's considered hot. Have you noticed that too?
Absolutely. Like, it's impossible to escape those images and narratives.
Right.
And they can be incredibly damaging because we're sold this idea of like effortless desire and picture-perfect bodies. Right, exactly.
Which can make us feel, inadequate or confused about our own experience.
It's totally like we're supposed to be up for anything, anytime, and look amazing while doing it.
Right.
It sets the bar impossibly high
It does.
and creates this pressure to perform rather than actually enjoy ourselves.
It's a recipe for anxiety and disappointment.
Totally.
Especially for women,
Yeah.
We're often caught in this double bind where if we're open about our sexuality, we risk, being judged or shamed.
Right.
But if we're hesitant or have specific preferences, then we might be labeled as frigid or prude. It's like a no-win situation.
So how do we even begin to navigate this, like, minefield of mixed messages? How do we start unlearning those harmful scripts?
I think awareness is key. Just start paying attention to the media you consume.
Okay.
Notice those unrealistic portrayals and how they might be influencing your expectations or making you feel about your own body and desires. Are they making you feel empowered or are they leaving you feeling insecure? That's such a good point. It's like anything else we take in, we have to be mindful of its impact on us.
Exactly. And beyond that, seek out more diverse and realistic representations of sex and relationships.
Where can we find those?
There are some fantastic books, podcasts, and websites, created by sex educators and therapists who are really challenging those harmful norms and celebrating the full spectrum of human sexuality.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, this next part really surprised me. Nagoski talks about how physical responses during sex don't always align with actual arousal. especially for women.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Absolutely. There's been this long-held assumption that if someone is physically responding, then they must be enjoying themselves, right?
Right.
But research, particularly on women's sexuality, has shown that that's not always the case.
So even if a woman's body is, like, physically responding, it doesn't necessarily mean she's turned on or enjoying the experience.
Exactly. For many women, physical responses can occur for a variety of reasons, like hormonal changes, sensitivity to touch, even just the mechanics of what's happening physically. But those responses don't always translate to genuine desire or pleasure.
That's huge,
Huh.
especially when it comes to consent.
Absolutely.
Just because someone is physically responding doesn't mean they're obligated to continue or that they're, like, secretly enjoying themselves.
You hit the nail on the head. This is why open communication and consent are absolutely crucial in any sexual encounter. Check in with your partner.
Yes.
Ask what feels good, and be open to hearing their response, even if it's not what you expected.
It all comes back to communication, doesn't it?
It really does.
So if we were to, like, distill everything we've learned from Come As You Are into a single takeaway for our listeners, what would it be?
I think it's this. Sex is complex, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Understanding your own body, your own responses, and what truly brings you pleasure is a journey. It's not a destination.
And what an exciting journey it can be. So as you continue exploring, here's a final thought from Nagoski that really resonated with me. If you could rewrite the rules of sex based on what feels good for you, what would they be? Let us know because we'd love to hear your thoughts. That's it for our deep dive into Come As You Are. Until next time, keep exploring and celebrating the beautiful complexity of your own sexuality.